The interview, the interview. We know many people when they go to interviews, they are hungry and eager to impress. So the interview process itself is one of the most flawed matchups that I've ever seen. On the one hand, we've got the employers that wield too much power and the employees that seem to grovel and beg for recognition of acceptance to be employed. And oftentimes the employer, they want to flex their muscles, they want to show that they have the strongest bargaining power in the discussion. From the time an employee or a potential or a candidate walks into the offices, how they are supposed to behave or what they are supposed to be shows that who is in a powerful position in between the parties. Yes, we do agree that because of these high unemployment rates, most of the people that are seeking employment would be probably a little bit desperate. It is true, but we always thought that in the true spirit of Ubuntu, you don't capitalize on somebody's desperation and you treat them like a piece of debt. Why do I say so? You walk into the premises, you have to come up dressed in a specific manner. You need to exhibit a certain behavior. I remember there was a time when, as a candidate, you were not supposed to take a seat until you were offered a seat, as if they were going to interview while standing. But the whole concept of an interview, it's supposed to be a symbiotic process whereby the employer assesses the suitability of the candidate. Can this candidate be a best fit given our set of circumstances? At the same time, it should give the candidate the opportunity to assess, amongst other things, the culture or the organizational fit. Because at the end of the day, this relationship should be mutually beneficial. So you need to assess the mutual symbiotic relationship that could be crafted between these two parties. But because somebody has got a healthy balance sheet, they already flex it. They flex their muscles so that you feel so tiny, so low. So most candidates, as soon as they go to the interview, they are already made to feel so tiny, so low. And it actually does not start from there. Even from the time they get invited, at the time when they receive a call from whoever is going to call them or an email, they are already made to feel so low. Quite often, the company would not bend or to try to accommodate somebody. Let me give you an example. Somebody can decide to set up an interview at 7 a.m. because it's convenient for them to have the interview at 7 a.m. Some of them find that they are not willing to bend. They will tell you such and such is only available at that time. If you cannot make it, unfortunately, there won't be another opportunity. Desperate as I am, I'll need to find measures, or I need to do something for me to go and make it at 7 a.m., even if it's not convenient for me. Some interviews, somebody can say, the interview is going to be at 1 p.m. at such and such a place, which is far away from where somebody stays, at 1 p.m. It means that whole day is devoted to that interview, even though the interview is not in the morning. It simply assumes I have to drop everything and I have to go to the interview. So already just before I walk into the premises where the interview is going to happen, somebody is already on the back foot. And then come the actual interview, you're still expected to show up. But you have already been treated like a piece of worthless debt. And then once you get there, the kind of questioning that you're going to get, you'll be subjected to an interrogation. An interrogation. Yes, they think that those are probing questions to try to determine the suitability. And I can tell you, we are not going to determine the suitability of a candidate by simply talking to them over an hour. That one is not going to happen. Yes, you need to trust your gut, your instincts, and all the other things. You're going to assess some other things, but you are not going to fully know whether this candidate is the right fit by simply having a conversation with them for an hour. But so what companies then do, they probe, they interrogate. Instead of this being a dialogue where you're sharing some information between two parties, when you open up something like a date, because in a date, you don't just go there and say, and start questions like this. If I clap you, what are you going to do? Already, that person, if it's a normal person, has to say, but if you clap me, I'm going to clap you back. I'm going to give you a hot clap as well. You see, that is the normal reaction. But in an interview, the interviewers, they don't expect to hear the kind of honest answer the person has to give. It is for that reason, that's why you see most of workplaces, they are comprised of people that are demotivated, low morale. Certainly somebody does not fit into the ecosystem. It is because they were forced, they were belittled from the time they got in there. And because they knew that they were going to be belittled, they did extensive research to say, if I'm being belittled, how do I need to respond? They are going to rehearse how they are going to respond, and you are going to feel impressed because you have belittled them and you wanted them to feel it. Yes, they've rehearsed and they felt it. Why? Because they are desperate. They come to the job. 2 months down the line, they are demotivated. They are not performing, and you start to blame them. When in reality, it was the whole recruitment process that was flawed from the beginning. And a flawed process is going to produce flawed results. A flawed process is going to produce flawed results. So then, what do I suggest we need to do? We need to rethink the whole concept of recruitment. We need to rethink how interviews are done. You get to an interview, they ask you, tell us your greatest strength. What are your weaknesses? Right? Huh? Tell us your greatest strength, what are your weaknesses? But now, let's assume you know what you are looking for in this specific candidate. Why not put somebody in a scenario where they need to exhibit that strength without actually asking for it? Because you need to see it in play. You need to see that this person can do this thing. Also, you need to understand, what do they fundamentally believe in? Because I can assure you, if you hire somebody who believes in what the company believes in, what the company stands for, that person will find the tools and the mechanisms to upskill themselves to the level, to the performance level that is expected of them. Why? Because they believe in what you believe in. So there's a whole lot of things that we need to rethink around this concept of interviews and recruitment. And as I start my series on the whole interviewing journey, I'm going to be delving into some of these topics, what I believe need to be changed. Things like people having to send their applications that go through the application tracking system. And I know most companies even apply the 6-second rule. There is a whole lot of things that I think they need to fundamental change. What kind of conclusions can you make in 6 seconds? Fine. You can make a judgment on somebody in 6 seconds, but I can tell you, in most instances, that judgment is also flawed. Why? It is because maybe it's based upon your own prejudices. It's based upon your own personal expectations, but more so based upon your own prejudices. And this person could become a vital asset in the organization, but because of your prejudices, you think this person is not suitable. I'm going to be dealing with those issues. Stay tuned.